poems. It comes from, I don't know when it was written.
Do me a favor, though. Can you speak up?
Oh,
Because
boy.
my ears are a little...
Well, I'm not going to do that now. I want to read this poem. There's a pause in this poem that really... So more than 20 years west of Mount Yen, and I've never been cheated by a hoe. A garden in the spring, a new tea, a new tea in bamboo, a few trees in fall of ripe chestnuts and pears. I drone on the summit when the moon is bright, and walk along the stream when the clouds turn warm. With so many friends in examination halls, why do I leave my door open?
Where was that from?
The Mountain Poems of Stonehouse. Yeah. Never been cheated by a hoe. That's what he said.
They've been cheated by him, Clay.
No, it's about gardening. Get your mind out of the gutter, Dean.
Oh, a garden.
See, I would think of a hoe, like with gardening.
It is what it is. Yeah. I knew that. I was just being a smart ass.
You just have to consider the source.
And then we find another one.
Now, if it had been an IQ, that would have been a...
Oh, the other kind? Yeah. Here's the other one. The other one starts out, a hoe supplies a living. There's water and wood all year.
Both hoes.
Mountains to relax my eyes, nothing to cause me trouble. Mist soaks through my thatch roof. Moss covers up the steps on the trail. Accepting conserves my strength. I don't need to arrange a thing. That's pretty good, right? Right along the grass huts. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Well, are we ready? Are we present yet?
Yeah.
We're just going to contemplate those for an hour. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagatha's words. Alrighty.
This doesn't include Cleveland sound versus other kinds of...
All right. So the chapter I chose out of Suzuki's, or I should say this is December Session 2019, Crooked River Zen Center. We were all invited to choose a chapter from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and to provide a Dharma talk on that. I chose Nothing Special, and I think I'll get into why I chose that within the talk. And to start off, bear with me, I have a kind of a long read. It's not too long, and some of you may be familiar with it. It's kind of one page, a condensed version of a commencement speech. So I kind of started at just the title of the text, and I would go paragraph by paragraph and just stop and give my interpretation or what that portion of the text reminded me of, and that's kind of how I went through this whole talk. So just the title alone, Nothing Special, reminded me of kind of a commencement address from 2012 that went viral called You Are Not Special, Commencement Address. So not sure where I heard that commencement address initially. I think it was on NPR. I was able to Google search and find it easily, and as half of a duo of helicopter parenting, my ex-wife and I were very protective of our children. We were pretty guilty of helicopter parenting and being a little overprotective, I think, and this kind of speaks to that. And it also talks about, well, let me read it, we can talk about it after. So, the You Are Not Special Commencement Address is the only title I could find for it, and the teacher address at Wesley High School in Massachusetts, given by English teacher David McCullough in 2012. But his remarks are just as relevant today as they were 7 years ago. And these are some excerpts from his address. So he says, each of you is dressed, you will notice exactly the same, and your diploma, but for your name, exactly the same. All of this is as it should be because none of you is special. You are not special, you are not exceptional. Contrary to what your soccer trophy suggests, your glowing 7th grade report card despite every assurance of a certain corpulent purple dinosaur, that nice Mr. Rogers and your batty Aunt Sylvia, no matter how often your maternal Cape Crusader has swooped in to save you, you are nothing special. Yes, you've been pampered, cosseted, doted upon, helmeted, bubble-wrapped. Yes, capable adults with other things to do have held you, kissed you, fed you, wiped your mouth, wiped your bottom, trained you, taught you, tutored you, coached you, listened to you, counseled you, encouraged you, consoled you, and encouraged you again. You've been nudged, cajoled, wielded, and implored. You've been feted and fawned over and called sweetie pie. Yes, you have, and certainly we've been to your games, your plays, your recitals, your science fairs. Absolutely smiles ignite when you walk into a room, and hundreds gasp with delight at your every tweet. And now you've conquered high school. And indisputably, here we all have gathered for you, the pride and joy of this fine community. But do not get the idea you're anything special, because you're not. You see, if everyone is special, then no one is. If everyone gets a trophy, trophies become meaningless. If our unspoken but not so subtle Darwinian competition with one another, which springs, I think, from our fear of our own insignificance, a subset of our dread of mortality, we have of late, we Americans, to our detriment, come to love accolades more than the genuine achievement. We have come to see them as the point, and we're happy to compromise standards or ignore reality if we suspect that the quickest way or only way to have something to put on the mantelpiece, something to pose with, crow about, something with which to leverage ourselves into a better spot on the social totem pole. No longer is it how you play the game. No longer is it even whether you win or lose, or learn, or grow, or enjoy yourself doing it. Now, it's so what does this get me? As a consequence, we cheapen worthy endeavors. Building a Guatemalan medical clinic becomes more about the application to Bowdoin, an elite college, than the well-being of Guatemalans. It's an epidemic, and in its wake, not even dear old Wellesley High is immune. One of the best of 37,000 nationwide, Wellesley High School, where good is no longer good enough, where a B is the new C, and the mid-level curriculum is called advanced college placement. The sweetest joys of life then come only with the recognition that you are not special, because everyone is. Congratulations, good luck, make for yourself, please, for your sake and for ours, extraordinary lives. So I thought that was kind of perfect with obviously Suzuki Roshi's chapter is about how our practice is nothing special, and how enlightenment, suchness, any sort of attainment is not the goal of our practice, and it kind of, it's all about the practice itself, and that not to focus on some sort of accolade or end result, or just something to put on the mantelpiece, or to, nowadays it's more something to put on Facebook, right? So to say, look at me. And then to echo what John said, I'll move on now to the actual text. Nothing Special is the title, and they chose a quote from the chapter to start the chapter, which kind of did a great job encapsulating the whole thing. So what Suzuki said was, if you continue this simple practice every day, you'll attain some wonderful power. Before you attain it, it's something wonderful, but after you attain it, it's nothing special. So what I say there is, so what is Suzuki saying here? What is this wonderful power? When our mind is active and cluttered, we are blind to our innate Buddha nature. After a time, our Zazen practice allows us to calm our mind and allow us glimpses of our true nature, of our wonderful power. After becoming aware of our Buddha nature, we continue to practice cultivating awareness. We then come to the realization that this wonderful power we were cultivating is innate in us. We are born with it. According to Dogen, not only all sentient beings, but all things, sentient and non-sentient, have Buddha nature or engage in Buddha activity. So this is from Dogen, the True Treasury of the True Dharma Eye, the Shobogenzo. Because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles in the world of phenomena in the 10 directions all engage in Buddha activity, those who receive the benefits of the wind and water are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's transformation, splendid and unthinkable and intimately manifest enlightenment. Those who receive these benefits of water and fire widely engage in circulating the Buddha's transformation based on original realization. And then so that kind of makes me think, even if grasses, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles have Buddha nature, how could it be so special? How could suchness be so special if all things have it? So that if everyone has something, then how could it be special? Reminded me of I wrote here about my experience with TSA at the airport. I fly a lot, like every week, and when TSA first came out, I remember going to the airport, and the people traveling with me would all have to go through the standard check-in, like Chris had to when we went to Jikoji.
That's how you miss it.
that's how you miss a flight, and boy, did I feel special in the pre-check line. There's a few people there, and I didn't have to take off my shoes, and they were turning people away who didn't have pre-check, and there was only a few people who had pre-check back, 6-7 years ago, and I really had this feeling of it was something special. And now, 6 years later, I still travel every day, but everybody has TSA pre-check, especially in Cleveland and Chicago. And there's some days where I show up at the airport and the TSA pre-check line is like 10 times longer than the standard check-in line. I say, well, so I no longer, once I realize now that everybody has it, it's not so special anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were leaving San Francisco.
Yeah,
it was like this.
So now they came out with Clear. So Clear is still special.
Clear is-
That was inevitable.
So now, right here, I just threw in a quick, a very little poem from Ryokan, because he's one of my favorites. From the book One Robe, One Bowl. Last year, a foolish monk. This year, no change. And again, I think Ryokan, that's what attracts me to Ryokan, is there's just this overall sense of nothing special. Very simple, but profound. Childlike, profound. Yeah, exactly. So here now we're finally getting to the first paragraph of my chapter. I do not feel like speaking after Zazen. This is obviously Suzuki Roshi. I feel the practice of Zazen is enough, but if I must say something, I think I would like to talk about how wonderful it is to practice Zazen. Our purpose is just to keep this practice forever. This practice started from beginningless time and will continue into an endless future. Strictly speaking, for human beings, there is no other practice than this practice. There is no other way of life than this way of life. Zen practice is the direct expression of our true nature. So in this paragraph, I feel Suzuki is being very candid. I think as Jeff mentioned yesterday, this book was compiled from talks given at San Francisco Zen Center, and I could just see Suzuki sitting down to give a Dharma talk and opening with, I do not feel like speaking with Zazen, unless it was to speak on how awesome Zazen is. When he says there's no other practice than this practice, there is no other way of life than this way of life, I don't think he means you must be a Buddhist and study Zen. I think he means that any person with the desire to have a true understanding and of the absolute and true nature of reality will ultimately have to take the backward step through introspection, the cultivation of insight through Zazen. Take the backward step, and through the introspection and cultivation of insight through Zazen is the true practice. Regardless of your religion or non-religious beliefs, there is no other way. There is only one true practice, and it has no name. To try to define it with words and language is to defile it. Zen practice is the direct expression of our true nature. I feel this to be a powerful statement. Not much I can say to expound upon this, but to be a direct expression of our true nature makes me feel as though all we have to do is get out of our own way and let our true nature, our Buddha nature, take over. So here's another quote from Fukan Zazenji, another Dogen. When you rise from sitting, move slowly and quietly, calmly and deliberately. Do not rise suddenly or abruptly. In surveying the past, we find that transcendence of ignorance and enlightenment and dying while sitting or standing have all depended entirely on the strength gained through Zazen. So it's just kind of me backing up what Suzuki said with a Dogen quote. And that Dogen quote reminds me to protect mindfulness that I've cultivated during Zazen, to slowly get up and remain concentrated. While performing the service, listening to Dean's Dharma talk, especially after Sesshin, we just busted our asses, sitting on our asses for hours and hours and days. And for what? Don't throw it away at the end of a Sesshin. Put forth effort to extend your Zazen into every part of your life. Back to his text. Of course, whatever we do is the expression of our true nature, but without this practice, it is difficult to realize. It is our human nature to be active, and the nature of every existence as long as we are alive. We are always doing something, but as long as you think I am doing this, or I have to do this, or I must attain something special, you are actually not doing anything. When you give up, when you no longer want something, or when you do not try to do anything special, then you do something. When there is no gaining idea in what you do, then you do something. In Zazen, what you are doing is not for the sake of anything. You may feel as if you are doing something special, but actually it is only the expression of your true nature. It is the activity which appeases your inmost desire, but as long as you think you are practicing Zazen for the sake of something, that is not true practice. So that's a very powerful, paragraph there. And so my commentary on that was, I just watched an old video on YouTube. Zen in America compiled of footage and audio from San Francisco Zen Center in Tassajara. The audio and video were were for the most part recorded in the late 60s up until 1970, and the audio was lost and then found in 2005, where the audio and video were reunited after 35 years. After 35 years of it being watched as a silent video. On the first night of this sesshin, Mark and I went home and watched this. I felt inspired by the words of a 20-something-year-old Reb Anderson speaking to me from the TV. I found it completely in line with this Dharma talk and the chapter, Nothing Special. With that, here were Reb's comments on Suzuki's practice. Suzuki Roshi's practice is not based on attainment. It's based on living totally in each moment, of giving life to your life situation at each moment. Not even really at each moment, because that becomes some kind of plan that you set for yourself, but more simply, this moment. And living in this moment, and the only time that you ever are is right now. And the only place that you ever are is here. And what are you going to do with it? With the person that you meet, with the eating bowls that you open in the morning, with the bread as you're kneading it, it either is alive or it is not. So to live, this is still him speaking. To live totally in that one moment, the only moment that you ever live in, is the emphasis of our practice. Any notion that you have of searching takes you out of that moment. Any notion that you have of something you are going to attain in the future only takes you out of that moment. I mean, so that's echoes almost perfectly what Suzuki said in that last paragraph. So a bit of my personal struggle with gaining mind and all that. I said I've openly struggled with gaining mind, and I've discussed this with Dean, and I'm pretty sure every Dokusan we've had. I thought back to when I first started coming Crooked River, and I wanted a Rakusu really bad. I think I sewed it in like record time, and then Dean held on to it for about 4 months.
Only 4 months?
Only 4 months.
That's the right response.
But I felt the Rakusu showed I was a serious practitioner, that I was dedicated to this path. I mean, not that my practice would show that. I need a Rakusu to say that, right?
So were you wearing it all the time?
No. Only when there was pictures being taken. So a few years have passed now, and I can't really recall what I thought that Rakusu represented. I mean, other than what I just said. But but I'm pretty sure it was a goal, something I wanted to attain. That desire just removed me further from my true practice. I was picturing my badass self having a rakusu, being a real Zen student, and sometime in the future it was truly an exercise in futility. Even now I'm plagued by gaining mind. I want to immerse myself in Dharma, to really study the text and dedicate myself to my practice. I want to do hospice work and prison work, and I believe I will do those things, but I also have a gaining mind. I often daydream about the future and all the things I want to achieve and accomplish, none of which are true practice, as I am trying to attain something. Even if I cannot articulate or put my finger on exactly what something is, after having Dokusan with Mike, Dean, and Doug at Denko-e Sesshin, in which I declared my lofty long-term goals and desires to each of them, I went back to Sesshin. And after having the Dokusans and being sure those guys knew how serious I was, I finally started to let go a little bit. And as I sat in that Sesshin, I started to notice some of the people around at Jikoji that were practicing wholeheartedly without any goal of attainment. At least from my perspective, right? How do I know if they have some sort of secret attainment goal or whatever? Two of them in particular had not taken vows, never sewn a rakusu, but were truly inspiring to me. And even, master of forms and things like that, or true Zen master, if you will, but never, So that was kind of an eye-opener. So back to the text. If you continue this simple practice every day, you'll obtain a wonderful power. So this was the quote they pulled out. But it's worth reading twice because it does encapsulate the whole chapter. If you continue this simple practice every day, you will obtain a wonderful power. Before you attain it, it is something wonderful, but after you attain it, it's nothing special. It is just you yourself, nothing special. As a Chinese poem says, I went and I returned. It was nothing special. Rozan, famous for its misty mountains, Seiko for its waters. People think it must be wonderful to see the famous range of mountains, covered by mists and a water said to cover all the earth. But if you go there, you will see water and mountains, nothing special. So I already covered the opening of this paragraph in the in the beginning there. I'd like to comment on what Suzuki's saying here about our expectations of things, or how we perceive things are going to be. We aggrandize them in our heads, telling ourselves how great it's going to be, how amazingly beautiful something's going to be when we get there. Then when we get there, it's just mountains and water, nothing special. I had a similar experience recently when taking my kids to Niagara Falls, and I could, of course, appreciate the falls and all their immensity and how much power there was and that amount of water rushing over a cliff. But we got to the edge and took some pictures, and I remember thinking, yep, that's Niagara Falls. Beautiful, but nothing really special. I think we could build things up to mythic proportions in our minds or just expect magical experiences when most things are just perfectly ordinary. This also brings back memories of someone in my past who would begin to celebrate their birthday at the beginning of their birthday month. I would hear countless times how bad things weren't supposed to happen on their birthday month. And if there was any type of disagreement or argument or anything, I'd be chastised. How could you be so mean and cruel to me on my birthday month? Eventually, something would always happen close to their birthday, and every time it was a completely devastating experience. It would have been just the normal ups and downs of life in any other given time. But their birthday was so special to them, and they built it up for so long ahead of time that when anything happened, they felt like it was just a disaster, and that their birthday was ruined because it was they were looking forward to it and placed it on such a high pedestal. So I kind of said, it's just mountains, it's just water, it's just another day, nothing special. It's a kind of mystery that for people who have no experience of enlightenment is something wonderful. But if they attain it, it's nothing. But yet it is not nothing. Do you understand? For a mother with children, having children is nothing special. That is Zazen. So if you continue this practice more and more, you will acquire something nothing special, but nevertheless something. You may say universal nature or Buddha nature or enlightenment. You may call it by many names. But for the person who has it, it's nothing and it is something. So I have to say perhaps mothers here would like to agree or disagree with Suzuki Roshi about how for a mother that has children, having children is nothing special. I personally have watched all 4 of my children being born, and while it was disgusting, it was nothing short of a miracle. I get what Suzuki is saying. There's moments that blow you away or immediately wipe away all the petty things that have been consuming your thoughts, like a birth of a child, the death of a loved one, or a terminal diagnosis. These things change our perspective and understanding of all these change our perspective and understanding of what's important in life, while at the same time, no one is immune to them. We will all go through these events. They are so ordinary that on this planet, 1.8 people die every second. In the time it took me to read just this sentence, 16.4 people have died. There's a little, It is nothing, yet it is something. To try to explain it in our human language is to defile it. Repeating that, I guess. But I like to think it starts with interconnectedness and impermanence. When we express our true nature, we are human beings. When we do not know what we are. We are not an animal because we walk on 2 legs. We are something different from an animal, but what are we? We may be a ghost. We do not know what to call ourselves. Such a creature does not actually exist. It is a delusion. We are not a human. We are not a human being anymore, but we do exist. When Zen is not Zen, nothing exists. Intellectually, my talk makes no sense. But if you have experienced true practice, you will understand what I mean. If something exists, it has its own true nature, its Buddha nature. In the Parinirvana Sutra, Buddha says, everything has Buddha nature. But Dogen reads it in this way, everything is Buddha nature. There is a difference. If you say everything has Buddha nature, it means Buddha nature is in each existence. So Buddha nature and each existence are different. But when you say everything is Buddha nature, that means everything is Buddha nature itself. When there is no Buddha nature, there is nothing at all. Something apart from Buddha nature is just a delusion. It may exist in your mind, but such things actually do not exist. So this is when John took this paragraph for his Big Mind talk last night. So my comments are, when we express our true nature, we are human beings. When we do not know what we are. I read this as saying, we are only truly human beings when we are living in our true awakened state. The state in which the self has dropped off. We have to practice mindfulness to provide ourselves with glimpses of our true nature. If you look around you, we are force-fed, unskillful means all day, every day. Violence, hatred, anger, sexual misconduct, materialism, intoxication. I think we are like animals, like a dog begging for food, completely focused on that tender morsel. Truly, my dog has a one-track mind. I think we are like this, always focused on what is going to make us happy in the future. It's only when we do Zazen that we can let go of our monkey mind, or in this case, our puppy mind, and be truly human. Living in this moment with compassion for all beings. I agree with Suzuki and Dogen about all things being Buddha nature. If you drop off body and mind and lose the small I and open to the big I, there is no duality. There is no you and I. There is no me that is separate from Donald Trump. On the flip side of the same coin, there is no me that is separate from Suzuki, Dogen, Reb, Uchiyama. We are all made of Buddha nature. Through dedicated practice, some are just further along the path of realization than others. I'm reminded of how common it is for people to have moments of clarity and peace on their deathbed. At some point, the truth has to cut through the bullshit. We owe it to the universe to open up to it before it's too late to share the good news. And back to the text. So to be a human being is to be a Buddha. Buddha nature is just another name for human nature. Our true human nature, thus, even though you do not do anything, you are actually doing something. You are expressing yourself. You are expressing your true nature. Your eyes will express, your voice will express, your demeanor will express. The most important thing is to express your true nature in the simplest, most adequate way and to appreciate it in the smallest existence. While you are continuing this practice week after week, year after year, your experience will become deeper and deeper, and your experience will cover everything you do in your everyday life. The most important thing is to forget all gaining ideas, all dualistic ideas. In other words, just practicing Zazen in a certain posture. Do not think about just remaining on your cushion without expecting anything. Then eventually you will resume your own true nature. That is to say, your own true nature resumes itself. And then on the second night of Sesshin, we went home and watched more Dharma talks, but this time our talks ended up talking about Okamura, so we went home and watched Okamura Dharma talks. And then I stumbled upon a short film by Shihaku Okamura's daughter, Yoko Okamura, about her family called Sit. It was just amazing.
Oh, which one was
12, it's a Sit.
Oh, yeah.
12 minutes long, and it took me through a range of emotions from the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Could be it was Sesshin, but also it was, she did a great job. Let me just say that. So I'm reminded by a short film by the daughter of Shihaku Okamura, a short biography of their family. In the beginning, they introduce his wife, who's a sewing teacher, and that is her Zen practice. They introduce Okamura, and he tells us what he is working on, the translations and the teaching. Continue the teaching of his teacher in the Sanshin style of just Zazen. They then introduce Okamura's son, who was a transplant to the U.S. at a young age. He did not assimilate well. He had trouble in public school, failing and dropping out at 13. He's now in his 20s, unemployed, living at home with no ambitions. You know, I've got my son's like the same age as Okamura's son, I think. Yeah, that struck home with me. They're showing his son, and he's just like this kid in his bedroom playing video games, and then he says, "Yeah, my dad never taught me about Zazen. We never talked about it." I'm like, "What, are you kidding me?" You know, I couldn't believe it. So I go into that a little
And I
more.
remember his comment about
Yeah,
when I asked him about it.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So, I was astonished when the son stated that he had never sat Zazen, that his father, a renowned Zen master, had never discussed Zen with his own son. I thought that to be an outrage. I thought perhaps it was just a Japanese cultural thing, that Okamura was neglecting his son to focus on his temple and his Sangha. But as I continued to watch, it became clear that was not the case. Okamura stated that his family were merchants in Japan for 6 generations, that it was very hard for his parents when he decided to become a monk. They forbid him from becoming a monk, but he did so against their wishes because he knew it was what he wanted to do. Okamura says, "I hope my children could live in that same way, free to make their own choices. To love is to give space to grow. If we do something because of our expectations or desired result, we are not there. We are looking for something better. In Buddhist practice, that is called samsara. Life is based on desire. That means they are not satisfied at this moment. They feel something is lacking. Precisely because of such a situation, I think this practice and this teaching are really important and meaningful in this modern world. I really admire my son. He doesn't have a strong desire about money or material things, but sooner or later, he needs to become independent and work in the world. Birds need to fly in order to figure out what the sky is. Fish need to swim in order to find out what the ocean is like. And we humans need to do something in order to find out what this world is like. Sitting is important, but we cannot sit 24/7, so we have to do something. We need to sit, sleep, walk, and work. Unless we as human beings start to walk, we cannot find any meaning in our life. Just live like a bird just flies, and a fish just swims. Just live." So at the end, the son finds his passion for cooking and was taught by his parents how to cook mindfully. For example, his mother said how to touch and hold food as gentle as if it were your eyeball. And then at the end, they also say the son had then returned to Japan to go to culinary school. And here we're, I'm thinking he's neglecting his son. He just to love him was allowing room to grow. He didn't force any of his beliefs or ideals or anything onto his son. And eventually, his son found what he was passionate about, and he's just living. So now he's just walking into the world, back to Japan to find his true passion. So then I just got a couple final bullet points, I guess, to try to summarize it. As long as we are reaching for, working towards, or driven to attaining some sort of goal in our practice, it is not true practice. True practice is just to be here now, in this moment, and and only this exact moment. Our practice is nothing special. There is nothing to attain. There is nothing to attain because we already have and are part of everything. To love is to give space to grow. Let me say it again. To love is to give space to grow. If Okamura pushed his son to also be a priest or doctor or whatever he may have discovered, or whatever he may not have discovered his true passion for cooking. This also goes back to the beginning on helicopter parenting, and if you never let your children deal with disappointment as children growing up, they won't have the tools to deal with real disappointment later in life. Do not practice with a goal or result in mind. Practice to awaken to the true nature of reality for the benefit of all beings. Sit to find your true, authentic self and truly live by example as your true self, as a Buddha, as a Bodhisattva, as this temporary manifestation of Buddha nature in this Buddha verse. And I added a little poem at the end because I felt it was pertinent. 2 poems, actually, they're both short. The first one is by Allison Harris from the book What Book? It's called Nothing Much Just. Or called Nothing Much, sorry. The first line is nothing much, just. A burst of light on the horizon, a flash of blue light over in dusky sky, a lone stone being stroked by whipping waves, a triumphant blow of a golden horn, a speck of sand named Harry on the glittering banks, a sweet taste of peppermint tea, a whiff of old picture books, a muddy puddle knee-high, a screech of chalk on a chalkboard, an old homework assignment crumpled, a marshmallow squishing under feet, an old painting hanging crookedly, nothing much at all. The last one, you can hold this up. So everybody's real familiar with that picture of Suzuki Roshi. So this is a poem by Jan Kaplinsky, also from What Book? Called Shunryu Suzuki. Shunryu Suzuki, a little Japanese living and teaching in California, couldn't be my teacher, one of my non-teachers. A little lit match from God's matchbox. A little lit match from God's matchbox, sea wind soon blew out. Somewhere between California and Estonia, somewhere between east and west, between somewhere and nowhere, nobody can find out what remained of him. After the wind has blown and the tide come and gone, the white sand is smooth as before, but his smile from the back cover of Zen Mind Beginner's Mind has silently infected book after book on my shelves, and perhaps the shelves themselves, and walls, and wallpaper too. And that's a wrap.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Wonderful Dharma talk.
Thank you.
I feel the same like Chris does, because, I think having these ideas of retaining something are totally normal. It's just don't get fixed on them. That's all. And I know for me, I feel like everything I do, I feel like I want to do this because it's going to make me feel better. And that's just, I think, a totally normal thing. Like, I came here today because I thought, well, this is going to be a lot better than sitting here at home by myself.
What was it?
But you know what I mean? Like, I know for myself.
Yeah, it's nothing special.
But for myself, that's, I feel like a big thing with me is I do things because I think it's going to make me feel better. And that, I think, is normal too. And, sometimes I'm sitting at, like, for a long time, my idea was, with meditation, was I was going to reach some sort of state where I didn't suffer anymore. And I was going to be totally non-reactive towards anything going on around me, and that never happened. And then once I dropped that, then other entertainment ideas of other aspects of the practice started happening, and I let those things be there, and I pursue them, but I let something else want to maintain, and that moves away on its own too. So I think the one thing I wanted to say is just you know, when we're bowing to each other, to remember that we're not just bowing to the Buddha and not just to each other, but to ourselves as well, you know, and to honor ourselves. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm wondering, if nothing is special, is then everything becomes special?
Yeah. That's why nothing is special, yeah, because everything is special.
Well, it just didn't sink in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what the hell is special then? I mean,
That's exactly it. And that's where I was gonna choose the verses on the faith mind, which is what we read yesterday for the chant after our sitting, because it comes back to the way is not difficult for those without preferences. So as soon as you think something special, you've elevated it. You've made it better than something else. Now you're picking and choosing, and you have preferences, and you've made the way much harder. So yeah, that's one of my favorite readings. So a lot of times I pull it into things where it's not. But to me, that's where that really hits home. Nothing is special because everything is special. But by making one thing more special than anything else, you've attached to it, and you've made it. You're clinging on to what it is and want it to stay that way and to stay special.
I like how you shared that, we cling to those things even as adults. I was thinking of the first very special thing, my Cub Scout, whatever it was.
Yeah.
A bear or a wolf I got to sew on my shirt.
Right.
I really thought that was special.
Yeah.
But, what is my bear or wolf today?
Mhm.
And yours was the
rocket suit.
yes.
Yeah.
Not for yourself, but to put it out there for others to see.
Right,
See,
right.
here's
Yeah,
mine.
see how serious I am, whatever.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And you think about it in our society, how label conscious people can be.
Mm.
I mean, Wall Street has done a great job in, projecting that upon us and making that should, that we should be participating in this. It's made a lot of people a lot of money and kept a lot of people in poverty too. Yeah, it's, well, and I really, and this is something I, more and more, the thing of our zazen, the thing of sitting on the cushion is really being off the cushion or on the cushion really is, not different. It's, because and like I shared something that Dean had that I listened to. It talked about how they have done testing on this. And for some people that have sat for years and decades, their mind is no different, when they were doing. But then there's actually some people that hadn't sat that long, that it was no different getting off the cushion. Yeah, so it's, it's really something to work with and be aware of. Yeah, it's no lack of opportunity, for practice, for putting it into practice, let alone practicing with what's there, the scenery, the causes and conditions. Yeah.
I had some thoughts about the difference between the evening gatha. Is that how you pronounce it? Gatha. Gatha. That the last two evenings where you hit the Han, and I don't know. I just really thought that was special. Not special, but special. But, and just like, letting that sink in, and it's like, and I went online and I'm like, oh, I want to frame that.
Many have, if not but hanging on their
Yeah.
walls. That is inspirational. It really brings us back to practice.
It's like a combination of inspirational and a little morbid. Some like people in, I was like, I'm gonna post that on my Facebook page, and I might get a call from my mom. Honey, are you okay? It's a little
Yeah,
depressing.
if life and death are suddenly of supreme importance, it doesn't sound good.
But then so it makes me feel like, all right, well, there's that evening Gata where, I feel like really cherish this special, in where do we read where, life is so special to have the opportunity to have a human life especially, how like that special that is. And then the evening Gata where awake, don't squander your life, like snap to, kind of like, so that it kind of, I don't know, it just makes me feel like there, this, a little bit of anxiety over, don't sit around playing the video game, wasting your life on
Right.
playing, I don't know.
That was it, yeah. Like Okumura's son wasn't going out and walking, and he wasn't swimming like a fish or flying like a bird. He was isolating.
He was isolated, but
But I think
I don't
to
know.
say I think the Gotha is special, and I think it's saying each day is special and life is special. It's saying everything is special, so don't piss it away. You know what I mean? But it's not more special than this day wasn't any more special than yesterday or tomorrow. But it's all special, but not elevated or more special than something else. So don't be blind to how special it is or how special everything is and miss it because you were worried about getting to that special place in the future.
yeah, I guess it's finding that middle
Am I hitting the
way.
microphone?
that-
Yeah,
of-
the middle way.
What? No, no.
Oh.
I was gonna say, could you, when you find these different videos or talks online, do you want to just post them to the Facebook page?
I'm sorry, what?
So you found.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just
The links.
post
Yeah,
to
for
the
sure.
Facebook page.
Because they're real, because
Yeah,
they're,
that would be great.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
was
Good
so
idea.
amazing seeing Brett Anderson as like
I would love to see
I
that.
don't know
I'd
how.
like to see that too.
You have a smart TV here? We can pull it right. We got-
So
we got
he
time?
probably had dark robes on then.
Well, actually, he just had a button-down shirt on at the one
Yeah.
point. Oh, there was a scene where he was doing the whacking with the whatever that stick's called. Yeah, they had dark robes on. He had black, they all had black robes on. But it was straight up 60s, 70s footage, and there was Suzuki doing a ceremony. And then they chanted the Heart Sutra at one point. It's kind of disjointed and broken up, but still, it's cool for what it is.
Oh,
you
that
know.
That is special.
Yeah, so I'll put the link up for that.
It's
Yeah.
probably on somebody's.
Yeah, you can hear it ticking in the background.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this opportunity I made with him because years ago when he came to Cleveland, I was sitting over at the Buddhist temple. I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday night, and a guy that I worked with invited me to go there, and I picked up the flyer, and then I was out of town on business, and I was so disappointed that I didn't. And I actually think that when I was walking through Green Gulch, like a year or two ago, when I stopped there, I actually think he walked towards me and said hello. And Carol, she said, "Oh yeah, tall, big hat." Yeah, that was probably Roe. He was just like so friendly, and I didn't realize at the time. And so this will be.
Special, but then not special.
Right, right. Yeah, but it's
It's
somebody
like-
not,
Yeah,
You know?
and I wanted to talk about that somewhat because, and it comes out in Suzuki's piece on it, that things are special until we fully appreciate them, and then that's kind of the gateway to where nothing is special. So we enter in where things are special. I mean, sashimi is special. And it's, if you come back to the evening gatha, what makes that so impactful is that it's nested into sashimi. I mean, you could do it at home every night. You could hear it, and it would still be impactful. But when you hear it in sashimi at the end of the day, and you've been there all day, you've practiced, in our case for 12 hours, some centers it would have been longer than that. You're wide open to hearing those words, and they don't enter just as words, they go to a deeper place within you. So is it special? Yeah, but when you see that, you also kind of cross over. It's like you're crossing over to the other shore, and on that other shore, and this is what Joe was pointing to, that no, everything is special. So if you lift everything up, then you can look at it either way. Nothing special, everything's special. That's kind of like the closing of that circle where they meet, and it's one and the same thing. So it's not nihilistic. It's not a nihilistic nothing special. You'd hear that and you'd diagnose depression, right? There's nothing that really excites me.
Not only nothing, everything's.
So the other end of that is everything excites me. Being alive in this moment, having this experience, how wonderful.
So is that what they're trying to say in the Diamond Sutra? Because they're saying, it's the true Dharma, but it's not the true Dharma, so therefore it is the true Dharma. And it's sort of like it's neither, but it's both, depending on where you,
I think
where your
so.
perspective is.
Yeah, because when we first hear the Dharma, they're just words we're struggling with. And so we hear Dharma, the word Dharma, and we think, oh, it's teachings, it's texts. I've got lots of Dharma. Go up and look at my bookshelf, and there's the Dharma. But that's not, so the Diamond Sutra is saying, there's no Dharma. There's no Dharma in those books. It's like the teaching of the Buddha, that he never gave a teaching. He never gave Dharma. That's what he's pointing to is, it's not, the meaning is not in the words. But it responds to the inquiring impulse, as the Dong Shan Song of the Precious Mirror puts it. So the response to the inquiring impulse is coming out of the no Dharma into the Dharma realm again, but it's completely transformed. Now everything is Dharma.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything is correct.
So everything's Dharma, everything's special. No Dharma, nothing special. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to relate that. Yeah.
I think of those phrases of just this is it, and not it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
if we just fix to one way of presenting the teaching, that we create fixed views and attachment, that's it. Literally, Okay, now I get it. And as soon as you get it, you have to let it go. That's the true practice of non-attachment and being in the moment. Otherwise, I'm bringing that with me throughout.
So when I get home later today and my wife says, so how was the last session?
It was truly special, is what you should say.
No, you can just say not special.
Special,
Special, but
but inexpressible.
It was the utmost. The supreme.
Yes.
The utmost supreme.
Yeah. Such a dilemma, when people say, oh, well, how was your meditation today? Or how was the sashimi?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to put into words.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My father used to always ask, so what did you learn when you went on retreat?
Right. Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You'd be like, why are you going?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the other day ran across something, and I don't know what it was, and it was talking about, if we have the need to put it into words, that really isn't our practice, is having to put it into words. Because like Dean said, words are just words, taking that and, making it our practice is a whole different thing. So, don't need to attach words to it. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to, but we need to at the same time.
Oh, right, and that's what it was talking about, because it was talking about if we find ourselves
Yeah,
in
there's a fire.
getting into those situations of needing to
there's no
talk about it,
Oh, is it going?
yeah, and I always think of Giroux because one year when I think it was the second year I was there, and he was always Eno, and I was his assistant. And, so I was following him around all the time, and, he was teaching me, and silently teaching me, because Giroux is a person of very few words, but he doesn't need words. Yeah. And, I always think of that of Giroux. Yeah.
I was thinking about, in my 20s, I moved to San Diego from Cleveland. And, I think I moved there in just before Christmas. It was like 75, blue sky.
That sounds special.
And, yeah, right. And every day, blue sky, and you're just like in awe. It's like, wow, it's like the bluest sky, too, And then I was a new nurse, and I got a job at this hospital, and it was $3 an hour less than what I was making at University Hospital in Cleveland. And I don't know if I asked whoever hired me, I asked somebody at the hospital, why is it paid? So, like, I came from Ohio, and the cost of living here is more than double what it costs. Oh, because it's such a special place, the weather, the sunshine factor.
Right.
And I remember thinking, well, it's not that special.
Not $3 an hour,
Not
especially.
$3 an hour. I still gotta
Yeah.
pay the rent.
You could buy a picture of the sunshine.
Well, and the funny thing is, after a while, I lived there for 15 years, and after a while, that it is an amazing place, and it's beautiful, and certainly comfortable. 72 degrees, all year round. But after a while, it's like you gotta go to work, and it's still sunny, and I don't know. You still appreciate it, so it's kind of like it's sort of similar. It's like it's special, but it's not, because
We take it for granted. That's just the way it
Mm.
is.
And I was working in a psychiatric emergency unit, and I thought, how could anybody be suicidal in this environment? It just astounded me at first. Wow,
Yeah.
So anyhow, and you look out and you see little snowflakes here and the white, and it's
Beautiful.
Special.
beautiful,
Because
A lot
it's
of people
December.
in California would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by February
I say
or
it's
March,
yeah.
this is not going to be
It's special
so
now. In
special.
February, it's a
Right.
burden.
Yeah.
You're like,
And we're looking for sunshine and greenery.
yeah, there's always this,
Yeah.
pull for grasping for.
Yeah.
But reading, because I do have beginner's mind on my dyslexia app, so I'm reading it, And one of my favorite chapters was when he talks about weeds and
what?
weeds.
It was Judy's chapter, wasn't it? Or he did talk about it in Julie's chapter, excuse me.
Yeah.
That I really like that
Yeah.
chapter a lot because that's one thing I've noticed in practicing is that, like when I got angry that my bread wasn't put out
I
yesterday,
was thinking about that.
and but as I sat there at the table feeling angry and I was observing my story. I was sitting back hearing my story in my mind, and then I just asked myself, I said to myself, well, you're angry, but you're not angry. And then I just felt a sense of relief. But learning, that was that anger is a weed, but that weed helped me grow, just by acknowledging it. So I feel like the more I practice, the less resistance I am to painful emotions or thoughts or suffering that happen. I don't feel as much resistance where I want to do this to it, and I'm doing more this to it.